What happens when two passionate voices clash over one of the most contentious issues of our time? In this episode, we dissect one of the most gripping debates in recent memory. Mehdi Hasan, the outspoken journalist known for his relentless questioning and moral clarity, takes on Eylon Levy, a sharp political analyst and spokesperson representing Israel's perspective. Their debate over the Israel-Palestine conflict is nothing short of electrifying. This conversation isn't just an intellectual exercise, it's a collision of deeply rooted histories, conflicting narratives, and raw emotions. It's about land, people, survival, and justice, all converging in a way that leaves no listener indifferent. Let's unpack the highlights of this fiery debate. Who are Mehdi Hasan and Eylon Levy? Mehdi Hasan is a name synonymous with fearless journalism. With years of experience interrogating power and championing human rights, he brings his sharp wit and powerful oratory to the table. Hasan is a voice for the voiceless, often shining a light on injustices that many prefer to ignore. On the other side is Eylon Levy, a skilled communicator and political spokesperson representing the Israeli perspective. Levy is a staunch defender of Israel's policies and its right to exist as a Jewish state in a volatile region. His arguments are deeply rooted in the historical struggles of the Jewish people and the constant security threats that Israel faces. The stage is set. Two strong voices, two opposing perspectives, and one contentious issue, the Israel-Palestine conflict. A century-long struggle, the Israel-Palestine conflict is not a new story. Its roots stretch back over a century, beginning with the fall of the Ottoman Empire, the Balfour Declaration, and the partition plan of 1947. What followed was a series of wars, displacements, and failed peace talks that have left the region in a perpetual state of conflict. Today, the conflict manifests in the form of occupation, settlements, and blockades, as well as rockets, terror attacks, and deep-seated mistrust on both sides. For Palestinians, it's a story of dispossession, statelessness, and a daily struggle for dignity under occupation. For Israelis, it's a story of existential threats, historical persecution, and the need to safeguard a homeland against a backdrop of hostility. This debate isn't just about facts and figures. It's about the human cost of a conflict that shows no signs of resolution. Hasan and Levy dive straight into this complex reality, offering two starkly different views on what's at stake and what must be done. Two narratives, one conflict. Mehdi Hasan starts the debate by challenging the status quo. He lays out the devastating impact of Israeli policies on Palestinian lives, from the ongoing blockade in Gaza to the expansion of settlements in the West Bank. How can you speak of democracy and human rights, Hasan asks pointedly, when millions of Palestinians live without basic freedoms under occupation? His argument is not just political, it's deeply moral. Hasan paints a vivid picture of Palestinian suffering, describing children growing up in refugee camps, families torn apart by displacement, and an entire population yearning for dignity and statehood. He highlights the imbalance of power, reminding the audience that this is not a conflict between equals but one where one side holds overwhelming military and economic dominance. Eylon Levy counters with equal fervor. His defense of Israel is grounded in its right to exist and protect its citizens. Israel is surrounded by enemies who have repeatedly called for its destruction, Levy argues. He points to decades of violence, including suicide bombings, rocket attacks, and the threat posed by groups like Hamas. For Levy, Israel's actions, however controversial, are a matter of survival in a hostile region. Levy also pushes back on the idea that the conflict can be reduced to one side's suffering. Palestinians have been let down by their own leadership, he says, pointing to corruption within the Palestinian Authority and the actions of militant groups. How can peace be achieved when one side refuses to recognize the other's right to exist? The clash of perspectives is striking. Hasan's arguments appeal to the global conscience, while Levy's focus on security highlights the practical realities of a nation under siege. The heated exchange, the debate reaches its peak when Mehdi Hasan confronts Eylon Levy about the Israeli settlements in the West Bank. With a sharp tone, he asks, how do you justify the ongoing theft of Palestinian land? Settlements are illegal under international law, yet they continue to expand. Is this the action of a country committed to peace? Levy fires back without hesitation. You talk about land theft, but what about the thousands of rockets fired at Israeli civilians? What about the tunnels dug to infiltrate our towns? Israel has a right to defend itself, and sometimes that means taking actions that others don't like. The tension is palpable. Hasan refuses to back down, pushing Levy to address the broader moral implications of occupation. Levy, in turn, challenges Hasan to acknowledge Israel's legitimate security concerns. The exchange is fiery, passionate, and deeply revealing of the emotional stakes on both sides. This moment captures the essence of the debate: two deeply entrenched narratives colliding, with no clear resolution in sight. No easy answers as the debate draws to a close. Both Hasan and Levy leave the audience with powerful takeaways. Mehdi Hasan emphasizes the need for justice, asking, how can we ever achieve peace if one side is denied its basic humanity? He urges the world to recognize the suffering of Palestinians and take meaningful steps toward ending the occupation. Eylon Levy, meanwhile, reminds the audience of Israel's unique vulnerabilities. Peace can only be built on security, he says, and security requires trust, something that has been eroded over decades of violence and rejectionism. In the end, neither side truly convinces the other, but that's the nature of this conflict. It's a story of deeply held beliefs and competing narratives, with no easy solutions. Join the conversation. This debate is just the beginning. The Israel-Palestine conflict is a complex and deeply emotional issue that requires open dialogue and understanding. We want to hear from you. What do you think about the arguments presented by Mehdi Hasan and Eylon Levy? Do you agree with one side more than the other, or do you see merit in both perspectives? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to watch our in-depth documentary on the history of the Israel-Palestine conflict to explore the roots of this issue. Understanding is the first step toward change.